The story begins at Jiangzhou No. 7 Middle School, where the sun is just beginning to set over the campus. Inside one of the classrooms, students are busy with their own things while one guy sleeps soundly at his desk. That guy is Qin Fan, and he suddenly snaps awake with a look of pure shock on his face. He slams his hands down and stands up, shouting that he refuses to accept this outcome. He looks around the room, completely disoriented, wondering if he's ended up in hell. The entire class just stares at him for a second before bursting into laughter. A few of his classmates mock him, wondering if he's having nightmares about getting kicked out of his family. They keep the insults coming, calling him nothing but an abandoned stray dog. Qin Fan stares at his hands, trying to figure out if any of this is actually real. He clearly remembers being struck down and torn apart in his previous life. He looks down at his desk, seeing all the hateful words his bullies carved into the wood. It finally clicks. He's somehow been sent 500 years back into his own past. He realizes he's returned to the most desperate and painful beginning of his life. He flashes back to his first year of high school, when the Qin clan cast his entire family out like trash. His classmates, Wang Zijuan and his former fiancée Zhou Xueman, stood by and laughed at his downfall. His parents tried to rebuild their lives from nothing, and for a moment, things were looking up. But then his second uncle framed them, leading to both of them being thrown into prison. They died full of resentment, leaving Qin Fan alone and broken. The tragedies didn't stop there. The Du family eventually crippled both of his legs. He even lost his girlfriend, Inua, as she was driven to her own death. Qin Fan was on the brink of death himself, lying defeated in the rain. That's when a mysterious master appeared and changed everything for him. The old man told him he was the one chosen by the heavenly Tao. After a century of intense cultivation, he rose to become the mortal holy emperor. He reached the peak, standing just one step away from becoming a true immortal. He faced his final lightning tribulation, screaming as the power threatened to consume him. But an inner demon born from his old hatred caused him to lose control. He fell from the heavens, still refusing to accept his fate. He never imagined the tribulation would fail to kill him and instead give him a new life. Back in the classroom, a dark smile spreads across his face. He lets out a manic laugh, declaring that the heavens truly won't let him die. His classmates just look at him like he's finally lost his mind. Wang Zijuan stands up, offering to slap him a few times to snap him out of it. Qin Fan's eyes go cold as he thinks about all the regrets he's carried from his past. Suddenly, he slams his fist down with enough force to shatter the desk into splinters. He glares at his surroundings, warning the Qin clan and his enemies that things will be different this time. The shockwave sends his classmates reeling back in confusion and fear. He clenches his hand, noting that his current body can only hold a tiny sliver of energy. Even so, he knows it's more than enough to start his path to revenge. The entire room falls silent as he stands there, radiating a new, dangerous aura. Just then, the dean bursts into the room, shouting at everyone to pipe down. Wang Zijuan immediately points a finger at Qin Fan, claiming that he's gone absolutely crazy. The dean sneers at Qin Fan, insulting his appearance and calling his behavior absolutely atrocious. Qin Fan looks back with cold eyes, remembering how this teacher was the most ruthless of everyone who kicked him while he was down. The dean shouts that letting a loser like him attend class is a waste of time and orders him into the hall as punishment. Qin Fan just smirks, recalling that his secret about this man that he learned during his previous life. He calls the man out right there, exposing that he bought his teaching certificate just to play the part of a decent person. Qin Fan laughs in his face, asking if a primary school diploma really makes him feel superior. The entire class is stunned that he actually had the guts to provoke the dean of students like that. The dean turns red with rage, screaming at him and calling him a little bastard. Qin Fan doesn't back down, pointing out that the man only has his job because he's related to the principal and takes bribes. He continues the list of crimes, mentioning how the man used underhanded tactics to force disadvantaged students to drop out. In his past life, this same man destroyed evidence of bullying and constantly threatened Qin Fan with expulsion. He finishes him off by mentioning how he plagiarized lesson plans because he can't even understand basic exam questions. Back then, Qin Fan had no choice but to submit to this abuse of power. But now, he just looks the teacher in the eye and asks if he's heard enough yet. He declares that this time around, everything is going to be different. The dean shouts that he's suspending Qin Fan for a week and tells him to go home and reflect. He threatens to report him to the entire school and the board for his behavior. Qin Fan just walks away, vowing to exact every single debt from his past life 1,000-fold. He tells the dean to start the countdown on his remaining time right now. Suspension is exactly what he expected. It was always the man's go-to move for delinquents. The dean is fuming, unable to believe the kid is actually smiling after being humiliated. He brings up Qin Fan's parents, mocking how they had to get on their knees and beg just to keep him in school. He laughs, planning to make them come and stand in front of the whole school to be shamed. Qin Fan stops in his tracks, his eyes narrowing with a murderous glint. He asks the man if he really thinks he can dare to insult his family. Before the dean can even react, Qin Fan whips around and delivers a devastating slap. The man is sent flying, blood spraying as he hits the floor with a heavy thud. Qin Fan stands over him, announcing to the entire room that they should all listen up. He warns that from now on, anyone who crosses him will meet this exact same fate. The dean scrambles back in terror, stammering that he's definitely going to have him expelled now. Qin Fan just tells him he's lucky, his upbringing is the only reason he only got a single slap. The dean clutches his swollen cheek, looking completely pathetic and broken. Qin Fan knows he doesn't have much power yet, so getting stronger is his top priority. He checks the time, realizing he needs to get home immediately to deal with an urgent matter. Half an hour later, he arrives at the familiar, run-down streets of the slums. He looks around, thinking about how it's been 500 years since he last stood in this place. He remembers that his family only survived because of the property his grandmother left behind. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, using his childhood name. He turns to see his father and mother working outside, looking just like they did in his memories. Tears well up in his eyes as he sees them alive and well again. His parents rush over, worried that something went wrong at school or if someone was bullying him. Qin Fan pulls them both into a tight hug, crying as he tells them he just really missed them. Qin Fan's parents are bewildered by their son's sudden outburst of emotion, unsure of what has come over him. His father grips his arms firmly, reminding him that a man must be strong, while Qin Fan laughs, promising to become stronger than anyone. Watching his parents, Qin Fan makes a silent, solemn vow to protect them at all costs in this life. As his parents beam with pride, the sound of a luxury car screeching to a halt nearby pulls their attention away. Qin Fan's expression instantly hardens as he recognizes the individual stepping out of the vehicle. Zhou Yiheng, the CEO of the Zhou Group, approaches with a fake smile. Qin Fan remembers him as the hypocrite who betrayed his family in his past life. Qin Fan's father is surprised to see old Zhou and asks what brings him to their humble neighborhood. Qin Fan narrows his eyes, recalling how this man's self-righteous facade once tricked his parents into a disastrous trust. A young woman steps out of the car, arrogantly calling them paupers and urging her father to stop wasting time. This is Zhou Xueman, Zhou Yiheng's daughter and Qin Fan's fiancée, a woman who wouldn't even spare him a second glance. Qin Fan remains silent, meeting her disdainful gaze with a cold, unyielding stare of his own. Pointing a finger at them, she bluntly states she is there to break the engagement because they are from two different worlds. Qin Fan mentally notes that they are indeed from different worlds, though she doesn't yet realize who is standing above whom. To their absolute shock, Qin Fan looks her straight in the eye and simply declares, rejected. He tells her that she cannot measure him by her common sense in this lifetime, as his revenge has only just begun. Zhou Xueman is outraged, asking if a toad like him actually thinks he could ever feast on a swan like her. Qin Fan's mother snaps back, reminding the Zhous that they were the ones who begged for this engagement years ago. Zhou Yiheng tries to maintain his image, telling his daughter to watch her manners, while she continues to insist the Qins aren't worth their time. Qin Fan interrupts, pointing out that the one who actually helped the Zhou family build their empire was his father, not the main Qin family. He reminds them that his father provided their tuition, startup capital, and business connections, everything they own today. Qin Fan sees through their good cop, bad cop routine, knowing they're manipulating his parents' sense of old-world loyalty. Zhou Yiheng puts on a pained look, urging Xiao Fan to let the past go for the sake of the children's future. He claims he could never repay the debt but must prioritize his daughter, while she rudely offers 10 million to end the marriage contract. Qin Fan sneers, asking if they're now treating his parents' kindness like a simple business negotiation. He asks if Zhou Xueman's hand in marriage is really only worth 10 million, knowing their true, darker intentions from his past life. Qin Fan remembers how Zhou Yiheng deliberately sabotaged his parents right after they handed over the marriage contract before. Zhou Xueman warns him not to push his luck, asking if he thinks a scrap of paper gives him leverage to blackmail them. She loses her temper, calling him a pathetic piece of trash and raising her hand to strike or point at him. In a sudden blur of motion, a sharp sound cuts through the air. Qin Fan catches her wrist mid-air with ease, his grip like iron. His eyes glow with a terrifying, demonic intensity as he asks if she really thought he'd let her have her way this time. He leans in, whispering a warning that if his parents weren't present, they wouldn't be walking away in one piece. Zhou Xueman gasps in terror, unable to comprehend how this loser has suddenly become so powerful. With a cold, dismissive command, Qin Fan tells them both to get the hell out. Zhou Xueman screams as she stumbles back, falling into the foul-smelling gutter of the slum street. Qin Fan adds that if word got out about their betrayal of the family that fed them, their business foothold would crumble. A desperate Zhou Yiheng tries to play nice again, asking if they can just sit down and talk in good faith. Qin Fan turns his back, demanding that Zhou Xuemon kowtow 100 times at their door to apologize first. He looks at his father and makes a cold declaration: he will dismantle the Zhou family himself. Leading his stunned parents toward their home, he tells them to simply trust him this once. Clutching her chest in a fury, Zhou Xuemon swears she will kill the piece of trash for this humiliation. Zhou Yihan watches them go, his face darkening as he realizes Qin Fan has completely ruined their plans and is far from the coward they expected. Inside the car, Zhou Xuemon rages that they can't let the Qins get away with this, but her father tells her to relax, claiming he has many ways to crush them. Zhou Yihan grinds his teeth in anger, realizing Qin Fan actually dared to threaten him and assuming it's all a bluff based on holding the contract. He vows that this family's end will be just as miserable as the main Qin family desires, shouting for the driver to go while Zhou Xuemon seethes in the back. The luxury car speeds away from the slums, leaving a trail of dust in its wake. From the window, Qin Fan watches them leave, knowing the Zhou family will stop at nothing and deciding he must strike first. His mother gently touches his face, worried by his sudden change in temperament, while his father agrees that he seems like a completely different person. Qin Fan gives them a reassuring look, telling them he's realized he can no longer live the way he has been. He declares that from now on, no one will ever bully, humiliate, or hurt them ever again. His parents are moved to tears, their expressions a mix of sorrow for his past suffering and pride for the man he is becoming. His father pulls him into a tight embrace, telling him he will always be their greatest pride, no matter what happens. Qin Fan hugs them back, a soft smile on his face as he promises that everything is going to get better from now on. He rests his chin on his mother's shoulder, his eyes reflecting an ironclad resolve to rewrite his destiny. Deep in his heart, he proclaims himself the Azura Heavenly Sovereign, vowed to rewrite the very rules of this world. Later that night, under the pale glow of the moon, Qin Fan leaps from his apartment window into the dark city air. He lands with predatory grace on a nearby ledge, his eyes scanning the urban landscape. He notes that the spiritual qi on Earth is incredibly thin and that he needs to find a suitable place to begin his cultivation. Using his heightened senses, he moves through the city like a phantom, searching for a font of energy. He stands at the edge of a rooftop, feeling a faint but pure aura coming from a park nearby. Spotting a secluded lake surrounded by trees, he smiles, feeling his luck is finally beginning to turn. He descends to a large rock in the middle of the water, sitting cross-legged as the spiritual energy begins to swirl around him. Qin Fan is delighted to find that the spiritual qi within this lake is surprisingly rich and potent. He realizes that if he absorbs it completely, it will be enough to break through the threshold of qi condensation tonight. Though he has lost the divine inheritance he once possessed, he doesn't see his current state as a disadvantage. As the blue aura of energy envelopes him, he embraces this fresh start, ready to climb back to the pinnacle of power. Qin Fan reflects on his past life, where a weak foundation and inner demons caused him to perish during his final lightning tribulation. Now that he's back, he's determined to cultivate properly from the ground up and finally achieve immortality. He sits cross-legged on a rock by the lake as the morning sun rises over the city. Blue spiritual energy swirls around him, sinking into his body as he focuses his mind. His eyes snap open, glowing with a piercing golden light. He can't believe his luck. Clearing his meridians actually gave him an unexpected breakthrough. It seems he's already awakened the fiery golden eyes, a powerful ability from an ancient inheritance. Even though his power level is still low, this see-through ability is going to be a game-changer. Nearby, an old man stops his own exercises, surprised to find a kid out here so early. This is Elder Gu, a massive figure in the military, and he's clearly impressed by the young man's dedication. Qin Fan just gives a cheeky response, saying he was just out here soaking up the essence of the sun and moon. He waves a casual goodbye, telling the old man not to let him interrupt his morning routine. He decides it's time to head home before his parents realize he's been gone. Elder Gu just chuckles, finding the boy's attitude pretty interesting. His bodyguard isn't so sure and asks if they should investigate the kid's suspicious appearance. The elder brushes it off as just a kid playing around and asks about his granddaughter, Xiao Xian. The bodyguard reports that the young Mrs. Flight will be arriving shortly. Elder Gu is pleased, it's been a while, and he's ready to spend some quality time with her. Back at the family's modest home in the slums, Qin Fan pushes open the gate. His mother is surprised to see him out so early, but he just tells her he went for a jog and brought back some breakfast. Just outside, a guy on his phone watches the house, making sure he's got the right target. He laughs, calling Qin Fan a snot-nosed brat and promising to take the job. On the other end, Zhou Xuemon is lounging on her couch, coldly ordering them to torture him slowly. Inside, Qin Fan looks over his shoulder, sensing that the Zhou family is moving even faster than he expected. His parents come out to meet him, worried after getting a call from his school. He tells them not to sweat it, the dean insulted the family, so he simply put the man in his place. His mother looks unsure, while Qin Fan internally hopes his fiancé is paying those thugs a decent price. He promises that within 3 days, that Dean will be at their front door begging for forgiveness. His parents just stand there in a daze, completely confused by his sudden confidence. He tells them that since he's got a few days off school, he's going to head out for a proper workout. He gives them a bright smile, vowing to protect the family from here on out. His mother watches him walk away, realizing that her son has truly changed. He returns to the tranquil lakeside to continue his training. Thanks to 500 years of memories, his cultivation is progressing much faster than he planned. He's certain it won't be long before he crosses the threshold into true immortal cultivation. Nearby, Elder Gu and his bodyguard are having tea when the air suddenly shifts. The bodyguard panics, noticing that the spiritual energy in the area is being rapidly sucked away. Elder Gu looks on in shock, feeling the massive drain on the environment. He looks toward the source of the disturbance, realizing someone is actually cultivating nearby. He catches a glimpse of the figure on the rock and realizes it's the same kid from before. Suddenly, a group of thugs shows up, their leader cracking his knuckles and ready to collect a paycheck. Qin Fan doesn't even move, the blue energy still swirling around him as they close in. The red-haired thug leader laughs, telling Qin Fan his time is up. He thinks this is going to be the easiest paycheck he's ever earned. Nearby, Elder Gu's bodyguard watches the confrontation and asks if he should step in to handle the situation. Elder Gu stays calm, sipping his tea and deciding to wait and see if the boy actually has what it takes. The thugs are pissed that they're being ignored, and the leader orders his guy to start recording so they can show their employer the show. The leader lunges forward with a club, yelling at his lackey to get a good shot of the kid screaming. Qin Fan doesn't even flinch as he effortlessly catches the strike with one hand. The thug's grin disappears instantly as he realizes he can't budge his weapon. With a casual flick, Qin Fan sends the big guy sailing through the air like he weighs nothing. He slowly stands up, telling the gang they showed up at the perfect time for a morning warm-up. Now that he's officially reached the chi refining stage, a blue aura begins to pulse around him. He stretches his arms, ready to finally get some blood flowing. Terrified, the leader scrambles back and screams at the rest of the gang to stop staring and take him down. The thugs charge in all at once, fueled by the promise of that 200,000 yuan reward. It's a complete blowout as Qin Fan starts picking them off one by one before they can even get close. Another lackey gets a face full of dirt as he's tossed aside like trash. The leader watches in horror, completely unable to process how a brat like this is dismantling his crew. Elder Gu watches the fight with a grin, finding the whole display getting more interesting by the second. Suddenly, a voice calls out for Grandpa, as a young woman with a silver ponytail arrives on the scene. Qin Fan drops his club, sighing that these guys were too weak to even count as a real workout. He stands over them, declaring that from now on, nobody is ever going to provoke him again. He looks down at the leader, remembering that in his past life, this same gang was the one that ruined him. He can still see the memory of them cornering him in an alley and beating him within an inch of his life. Back then, this same thug mocked him for trying to climb the social ladder by marrying into the Zhou family. The most painful part of the memory is the guy threatening to go after his parents next. In the present, the thug leader is a sobbing mess, begging for his life and claiming he's just a hired hand. Qin Fan isn't interested in excuses. He demands the money Zhou Xuemon gave them, and the guy quickly forks over a gold bank card. He realizes the girl just wanted to shut him up to protect her family's reputation, but he's happy to take their cash as a consolation prize. His peaceful moment is interrupted by a sharp voice telling him to stop right there. Xiao Xian storms forward, accusing him of being a lawless thug for robbing people in broad daylight. Seeing a chance to escape, the red-haired leader crawls toward her, crying for the beautiful lady to save him. Qin Fan isn't having it and shuts him up with a swift kick that sends him sliding across the grass. The thug is out cold, his face meeting the dirt for the final time today. Xiao Xian is absolutely livid, unable to believe he'd just assault someone right in front of her. Ignoring her, Qin Fan talks directly into the camera the lackey is still holding, telling Zhou Xuemon her employees are incompetent. He flashes the gold card with a smirk, promising his former fiancée a massive surprise the next time they meet. Xiao Xian has seen enough and lunges at him, screaming for him to stop. Qin Fan tries to tell her she's got the wrong idea, but she's not in a listening mood. She tells him he can explain his misunderstanding to the police once she's done with him. She launches a high kick at his head, but Qin Fan just notes that her form is flashy without any real substance. He dodges effortlessly and catches her from behind, pinning her arms while she struggles to get free. Seeing his young miss in trouble, the bodyguard finally charges in, demanding that he let her go. Qin Fan doesn't miss a beat, blocking the bodyguard's heavy punch with his free hand without even looking. Elder Gu's eyes widen in absolute disbelief as he watches the scene unfold. Xiao Xian is equally stunned, her mouth hanging open as she stares at the young man. Qin Fan easily holds the bodyguard's fist in place, a calm smirk playing on his lips as he asks if he can finally get serious. He tightens his grip slightly, his fingers pressing into the bodyguard's wrist with effortless strength. With a sudden burst of energy, Qin Fan thrusts his palm forward, sending the bodyguard reeling back. The man skids across the grass, unable to find his footing, as Elder Gu calls out in concern for Xiao Wang. Xiao Xian is horrified, rushing toward the fallen bodyguard and asking what happened. She can't believe her eyes. Uncle Wang is a top-tier soldier and a high-level martial artist, yet he was handled so easily. The bodyguard struggles to catch his breath, admitting that he was completely defeated in just a single move. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Elder Gu steps forward and bows, apologizing for the reckless behavior of his family. He explains that Xiao Xian only acted on impulse because she didn't know Qin Fan was the victim, and they truly mean no harm. Qin Fan just chuckles, finding her stubbornness amusing even as she still suspects him of being a thief. He clarifies that he was simply dealing with a group of thugs sent by his so-called fiancé, and decided to collect their fee. The truth sinks in as the thugs in the distance beg for mercy, confirming they were indeed hired by the Zhou family. Qin Fan finally releases his grip on Xiao Xian's arm, the tension between them beginning to fade. For a brief moment, they stand close together, and a faint blush creeps onto Xiao Xian's face. He tells her to save her sense of justice for the right people next time, and she quietly mumbles an apology. Elder Gu, impressed by the young man's character and power, asks for his name and hopes to repay him for the misunderstanding. Qin Fan says he isn't interested in favors, but since they met by chance, he decides to offer a small piece of advice. He looks the old man in the eye and tells him he should get a full medical checkup as soon as possible. Xiao Xian is left speechless and flustered as she watches him start to walk away. She watches his retreating back, turning to her grandfather to ask who this mysterious person could possibly be. Elder Gu tells her to take the advice seriously, noting that someone who can defeat Xiao Wang so easily must be a legendary grandmaster. Xiao Xian is skeptical, wondering how someone so young could have already reached such a mythical level of power. Elder Gu is convinced that meeting Qin Fan is a God-given opportunity that the Yi family cannot afford to waste. He stares after the youth, believing that Qin Fan is destined to become the strongest person in the country's history. Meanwhile, in a luxury apartment, Zhou Xuemon screams in rage and smashes her smartphone against a mirror. She's shaking with anger, unable to comprehend how the trash she discarded could possess such terrifying skill. She wonders if he had been faking his weakness all along just to deceive her. But she quickly shakes it off, convincing herself that a few martial arts tricks won't save him from true power and authority. She reaches for a tube of lipstick, her expression hardening as she prepares for her next move. Staring at her reflection, she sneers, thinking that Qin Fan clearly doesn't understand his place in the world. She mentions that her father has already set a trap for him, and she can't wait to see him groveling for mercy. The scene shifts to the outskirts of the city, where news of a massive 6 million yuan relocation payout is spreading. Back at home, Qin Fan's mother serves a meal and mentions that a developer has taken an interest in their small plot of land. Qin Fan eats in silence, remembering that in his past life, the Zhou family used a much larger sum to manipulate his parents. His father is optimistic, hoping the money will finally give them the capital to rebuild their family business. Qin Fan stops eating and tells them to leave the entire transaction to him, which leaves both his parents stunned. He gives them a confident smile, declaring that 6 million is far too low and he'll make sure the buyers pay a fair price. Later that night, a fleet of luxury cars pulls up to a grand, brightly lit venue where a high society event is underway. Inside, Zhou Xuemon is dressed to the nines, leaning on the arm of a wealthy young man named Sun Yiming. The grand hall is filled with the city's elite, all gathered for a prestigious network event hosted by the powerful Yi family. Zhou Xuemon looks on with a confident smirk, determined to be the center of attention at the grand anniversary of Jiangzhou's largest underground casino. As she walks through the venue with Sun Yiming, she overhears the crowd buzzing about someone from the Qin family winning big on a high-stakes bet. At a nearby table, the dealer announces a massive win of 2 million in chips, drawing everyone's eyes to the man sitting there. Qin Fan looks up with a sharp, knowing smile, greeting Zhou Xuemon as she approaches the table in shock. Swirling a glass of wine, Qin Fan casually remarks that he was just looking for a worthy opponent to play a hand with. The surrounding socialites begin to whisper among themselves, confused as to why the outcast of the bankrupt Qin family is at such an exclusive event. They mock him, assuming that he's only here because he's desperate and trying to gamble his way out of poverty. Qin Fan holds up a gold card with a taunting grin, revealing that his 200,000 in starting capital was all thanks to Zhou Xuemon's own sponsorship. Sun notices the tension and asks Zhou Xuemon if she knows this guy. She brushes it off, claiming their families just had some old business that has nothing to do with her. Zhou Xuemon looks completely disgusted, thinking a broke loser like Qin Fan has no business being in a place like this. Sun sneers, wondering how a piece of trash like him has the nerve to try and cozy up to his woman. He keeps the insults coming, calling Qin Fan a stray dog that the Zhou family shouldn't even bother giving charity to. Qin Fan just adjusts his collar, coolly questioning if she's really Sun's woman to begin with. The guy pulls out an envelope, offering to bet the contents along with all his chips if Shuamon can actually beat him. Her heart drops when she realizes exactly what he's holding. It's the marriage contract. Qin Fan offers to show the whole room the proof if they don't think the bet is high enough. Sun snaps and takes the bet, promising to humiliate him and kick him out of the casino for good. Shuamon is panicking, knowing that if that contract goes public, her reputation is ruined. Sun thinks he's doing the elite world a favor by putting this outcast back in his place. Qin Fan keeps it simple. High score wins the roll. Sun just laughs it off, thinking the kid is busy digging his own grave. The crowd gathers around, mocking the guy for showing up at a high society event just to make a fool of himself. The antagonist starts shaking the dice cup, ready to put an end to this. Qin Fan just smirks and follows suit. The cup hits the table with a heavy thud. Sun rolls a 26, a massive score that has everyone convinced the game is already over. Qin Fan lifts his cup with a grin, apologizing for the bad news. The crowd goes quiet when they see the dice. His luck is almost impossible. The dealer calls the win for the left side, leaving Sun fuming because he was off by a single point. Qin Fan leans back casually, making sure Shuamon knows she just lost. She isn't having it, calling the win a fluke and demanding they go for a best 2 out of 3. The kid agrees but raises the stakes even higher, putting his family home on the line as collateral. He promises to sign it over the second he loses. Shuamon is shaken. 6 million is the exact amount her father was using to try and trap his family. Qin Fan laughs, inviting everyone in the audience to jump in and raise the stakes if they think they can handle it. Sun isn't about to be outdone in front of a crowd, so he matches the bet, determined to bankrupt him right now. This time, they play for the lowest score, and Sun slams his cup down. He rolls a 7, an incredibly low score that has the crowd cheering for an easy win. Sun starts gloating, telling Qin Fan to get ready to go back to picking up trash on the streets. Qin Fan just tells him to look closer as he slowly lifts his cup. The expressions in the room shift to pure shock. He rolls even lower, mockingly asking if they want to try for a best out of 5 next. People in the crowd are losing their minds, refusing to believe his winning streak is real. A dead silence falls over the casino floor. The dealer announces the final total. The left side just cleared $1 billion in chips. Qin Fan looks at the stunned faces, wondering why the big spenders have suddenly run out of money and laughter. Sun is having a total meltdown, screaming that it's impossible and the guy must be cheating. Since they can't afford to keep playing, Qin Fan starts to collect his winnings, but a worker steps in. A man in a suit politely asks him to step into the reception room for a meeting with the manager. The protagonist isn't worried, telling them to cash him out first while he goes to see what they want. Sun and Shuamon are throwing a tantrum, screaming that Qin Fan must be cheating since this is Yi family territory. In a private room, a stocky older man with slick-back gray hair and glasses, Long Wu, watches the scene unfold on a tablet. Long Wu, the casino's head manager, sits surrounded by guards and demands to know how Qin Fan pulled off the cheat. Qin Fan just picks his ear, casually claiming it was all luck and that the whole crowd of spectators can vouch for him. He knows he used spiritual chi and X-ray vision to win, but he also knows they can't prove a thing. Long Wu sneers, calling him a Qin family outcast and a total novice who's never even placed a bet before. The manager has seen enough and orders his guards to take the boy down. Blue spiritual energy flares around Qin Fan as he expresses his disappointment in how the manor treats its guests. Somewhere else, a man in a brown vest stands by a window, talking on his cell phone. This is Yi Jizu, a powerful figure who smokes a cigar while looking out over the city. He tells the person on the other end that he has no time for trivial matters right now. It's Long Wu on the line, panicking as he reports that someone is tearing the casino apart and taking down all their men. Yi Jizu is stunned, demanding to know who would have the nerve to pull something like that. Qin Fan snatches the phone, identifying himself and telling the big boss that his manager is refusing to cash out his winnings. Later, Qin Fan walks calmly through the plaza while a battered Long Wu follows behind, still acting tough. The manager warns him that the Yi family is a military dynasty and a powerhouse that even the Qin family shouldn't mess with. He claims it's too late for mercy and that once the boss arrives, no amount of begging will save him. Long Wu grinds his teeth, promising that the hidden force masters around the boss will crush him like a bug. Qin Fan isn't impressed, thinking these guards don't even compare to the mid-tier martial artists he's seen. He tells the manager he isn't interested in crushing weaklings, he's just looking for a reliable helper. To him, the martial arts levels on Earth haven't even touched the threshold of true cultivation. Long Wu thinks he's lost his mind, laughing at the idea of the powerful Yi family becoming a backer for a kid. Qin Fan shrugs, mentioning that he wouldn't mind using a little force if the boss doesn't know what's good for him. He knows the Yi family has a much better reputation in the underworld than his own treacherous family. In his past life, these people were the only ones who didn't kick him while he was down. The boy realizes that having the Yi family as allies would make his cultivation journey a lot easier. Long Wu is still baffled by where this outcast gets so much confidence. Suddenly, a line of men in dark suits arrives, carrying heavy silver briefcases. The group walks with military precision across the plaza. Long Wu perks up, thinking his brothers have finally arrived to back him up. To his horror, the guards all stop and bow deeply, respectfully welcoming Lord Qin. The manager's jaw drops in absolute shock as the world he thought he knew falls apart. Yi Jizu steps forward, apologizing to Qin Fan for the lack of a proper welcome. He explains that it took a moment to prepare the cash and gestures to the billion in winnings. Long Wu tries to interject, stammering that the guy is just an abandoned son of the Qin family. Yi Jizu doesn't even let him finish, silencing him with a brutal slap across the face. The boss orders his men to drag the manager away and punish him according to military law. While the guards haul a screaming Long Wu away, Yi Jizu turns back to the guest of honor. He introduces himself as the fourth child of the Yi family and the owner of the manor. The owner asks for forgiveness for his subordinate's behavior and promises to satisfy any request. Qin Fan shakes his hand, noting that Yi is the first person in this place to actually show him some respect. Yi Jizu laughs, pointing out that this is their very first meeting. Yi Jizu smiles broadly, claiming he has heard of Qin Fan's greatness from his father and declaring him a benefactor of the Yi family. Qin Fan is taken aback by the revelation, wondering who this powerful man's father could be. The roar of a helicopter fills the air as it descends toward the casino's plaza, with someone inside shouting in recognition. Qin Fan looks up in shock as the aircraft hovers just above the ground. From the open door, Yi Ling waves energetically while her grandfather, the dignified Yi Tsongjun, looks on with a calm expression. Seeing his family arrive, Yi Jizu waves his arms and calls out to his daughter with affection. Qin Fan quickly connects the dots, realizing the girl he helped earlier is the young lady of the prestigious Yi family. He realizes that the old man he saved is none other than Yi Tsongjun, a legendary general and the head of the Yi family. Yi Jizu tries to greet his father, but the old general immediately silences him with a stern warning about the potential disaster he almost caused. Turning his attention back to the elder, Qin Fan notes that there seems to be a significant amount of fate binding them together. Yi Tsongjun explains that he and his granddaughter were just discussing their savior when they heard he had arrived at his fourth son's casino. To the shock of his family, the great general bows deeply to apologize and expresses his desire for the Yi family to befriend Qin Fan. Yi Ling follows her grandfather's lead, blushing slightly as she bows respectfully to the young man. Qin Fan accepts the gesture with a faint smile, deciding that since they show him such respect, he should reciprocate. He reflects on how those with a military background are often better at recognizing true power and merit. A relieved Yi Jizu offers his full cooperation, even suggesting he could give the entire Shanshui manor to Qin Fan as an apology. Qin Fan declines the ownership of the manor but admits that transporting $1 billion in cash would be quite a logistical challenge. Meanwhile, back in the luxury lounge, Zhou Xuemon fumes about Qin Fan, claiming his presence has utterly ruined her mood. Sun comforts her, promising that once the Yi family is done with him, they will have the pleasure of watching him get tossed out. Their smugness vanishes as Qin Fan reappears, escorted by a squad of the manor's elite bodyguards carrying silver briefcases. Qin Fan coolly instructs the guards to load his winnings into his car first, and they obey with absolute deference. Sun and Zhou Xuemon are left speechless and trembling as the guards address the boy they despised as Lord Qin. Walking toward the stunned couple, Qin Fan mentions that he returned specifically to settle one last matter. With a mocking smile, he produces a document and tells Xuemon that he can no longer grant her the honor of their marriage contract. The surrounding crowd erupts in whispers as the secret of the marriage contract between the outcast and the heiress is revealed. Xuemon is paralyzed with shame while onlookers realize her family's wealth was built on the back of the very family she just insulted. In a final act of defiance, Qin Fan shreds the marriage contract, officially divorcing the treacherous woman in front of everyone. He tosses a handful of cash into the air, inviting the entire room to drink on his tab to celebrate his new freedom. As Xuemon screams in fury, the crowd mocks her for being publicly dumped by someone she considered trash. Sun's face contorts with rage as he suspects Xuemon was secretly working with Qin Fan to manipulate his money. The couple's relationship implodes instantly as they turn on each other with insults and accusations of unworthiness. Qin Fan walks away without a backward glance, satisfied with the surprise he left for his enemies. With a cold glint in his eyes, the young cultivator notes that his path of vengeance has only just started. As evening falls over the city, he returns home, thinking only of providing a better meal for his parents. From their modest apartment, his mother and father watch in disbelief as a world-class luxury limousine stops in front of their building. A man jumps out of the car and runs toward the entrance, calling out to Qin Fan's father with urgent familiarity. Elsewhere, the corrupt principal of the school plots his next move, demanding that the dean help him get revenge. The dean agrees, mentioning how the recent scandal involving the principal kept him from attending the Yi family's anniversary. The principal sneers at the idea of letting trash like Qin Fan stay in his school if it weren't for the sake of mocking the Qin family. They walk through the school halls, followed by sycophantic students who believe Qin Fan should be grateful for his place at the school. Believing the Qin family has finally abandoned the boy completely, the principal decides it is time to cripple him for good. He swings a door open to deliver his ultimatum, only to freeze at the sight of two stoic military officers waiting inside. The principal and the dean stand frozen as they find themselves face to face with a group of elite soldiers standing guard in the hallway. A cold sweat breaks out on the principal's brow as he realizes the men are not ordinary tenants but highly trained military personnel. Trembling, the principal wonders if they've entered the wrong building, while the dean is baffled to find such a high-profile military presence in a rundown apartment. One of the soldiers recognizes the two men, his voice dripping with mock politeness as he calls out their titles. Qin Fan descends the staircase with a casual air, his hands in his pockets as he asks why the esteemed school officials didn't announce their visit. Seeing their target, the principal and dean immediately regain their arrogance, screaming for the student they believe is hiding to call out his parents. The principal launches into a tirade about Qin Fan's disregard for school rules, vowing to make the boy crawl on his knees and beg for mercy. Their bravado is short-lived as the soldiers suddenly move, pinning both the principal and the dean against the walls with effortless strength. Panicking, the principal frantically explains that they are merely there on official school business to discipline a troublesome student. One of the soldiers ignores the plea, looking toward Qin Fan and asking with a cold, sharp gaze how he wants to handle these reckless idiots. Qin Fan steps forward with a smug grin, noting that his former tormentors have conveniently delivered themselves to him right on schedule. The dean is shoved to the floor, gasping in disbelief as he realizes the military men are actually taking orders from the boy he intended to ruin. The principal continues to struggle, accusing Qin Fan of joining a criminal gang and foolishly believing he can defy the school's authority. Qin Fan tells the guard to release the man, while the principal boasts about his connections to the city's powerful financial syndicates. Misinterpreting Qin Fan's order as a sign of submission, the principal sneers that the boy's realization of fear has come far too late. Before another word can be uttered, Qin Fan delivers a swift, powerful slap that sends the principal's head reeling back. The dean watches in absolute horror, his mouth hanging open as his powerful brother-in-law is physically assaulted by a student. The soldiers behind them erupt in cheers and laughter, thoroughly impressed by the young master's lack of hesitation. Collapsed on the floor and clutching his stinging cheek, the principal can only sputter in rage at the sheer audacity of the strike. Qin Fan doesn't stop there, following up with a brutal kick that sends the corrupt official sliding across the tiled floor. A pained scream echoes through the hall as the principal buckles, while the dean shrinks back in terrified silence. Looming over his fallen enemy, Qin Fan begins to coldly list the principal's numerous crimes, from embezzlement to the exploitation of teachers. The principal tries to shout over him, desperately dismissing the accusations as nothing more than baseless nonsense. Looking down with eyes full of contempt, Qin Fan recalls the tragic fate of a teacher from his past life who was victimized by this very man. Qin Fan drops a bombshell. He knows the principal was secretly filming him getting bullied just to suck up to the main Qin family. The fat man's face goes pale. He can't believe the kid actually knew. The principal tries to act tough, screaming that without the Qin family, a peasant like him is absolutely nothing. He even threatens to have him killed with a single phone call. Qin Fan just smiles. He dares the guy to make that call and find his most powerful buddy to come and save him. The principal laughs, thinking he's got the upper hand. He starts bragging about all the rich heirs that attend his school. He even name-drops the powerful Yi family, claiming he's got connections to their second young master. He shouts that if the Yi family wanted to, they could crush a nobody like Qin Fan like an ant. Right on cue, Yi Jizu walks in carrying a gift box. Qin Fan greets him like an old friend, calling him Uncle Yi. Jizu is fuming. He tells the guy to shut his mouth and addresses Qin Fan with total respect as Master Qin. The principal and the dean look like they've seen a ghost. They can't believe the head of the Yi family is actually here. Jizu makes it clear, his family has no special deal with the school, and they certainly aren't backing these two. Meanwhile, his soldiers snap to attention. The dean starts sweating bullets, realizing just how much trouble they're in now that the real power has arrived. The principal falls to his knees, begging Jizu for mercy and trying to claim Qin Fan is just an abandoned son who doesn't matter. Qin Fan and Jizu just look down at him with pure coldness. To them, the guy's already a dead man. The principal's mind just snaps. He looks like his soul is literally leaving his body from pure terror. The dean is in total disbelief. He can't wrap his head around how a loser like Qin Fan won over the entire Yi family. He desperately asks what Qin Fan could have possibly done to get this kind of backing. Qin Fan just gives a casual shrug, saying he just went to the casino and won a little bit of pocket change. The Yi family guards swap their tactical gear for aprons and start serving up a massive, high-end feast. Qin Fan's parents are completely stunned. They've never seen this much food in their lives, let alone served by soldiers. The father asks what's going on, and Qin Fan casually explains that the school officials just came over to apologize for their mistakes. The principal and dean start wailing, calling themselves animals and begging for forgiveness for extorting the family. The father realizes these two had even been stealing the money meant for Qin Fan's school tuition. The two corrupt officials kowtow on the floor, pleading for their lives as they realize their careers and lives are over. Jisoo tells them they have all the evidence they need. His men grab the officials and drag them away to face their punishment. Qin Fan reassures his parents that they don't have to worry about anyone bothering him at school ever again. He then turns to his dad and asks how his recent business negotiations have been going. The father is beaming. He says everything went perfectly and thanks Boss Yi for making it all so smooth. Jisoo tells them to think of their families as friends from now on. He's making it clear they have his full protection. The parents see this as a huge blessing as Qin Fan and Jisoo head off for a more private conversation. Jisoo confirms that he's already wiped out every single video and trace of Qin Fan being bullied from the school's records. Qin Fan hands over the medicinal herbs he prepared, telling Jisoo to take them back for Elder Yi to use. He thanks the man for the sincerity the Yi family has shown in their alliance and for looking after his parents. Jisoo admits that they actually have a favor to ask of him in return for their support. Qin Fan tells him to go ahead and say what's on his mind. Jisoo explains that because of their military background, they often cross paths with powerful martial artists. He recalls a conflict from 9 years ago where a single mercenary nearly destroyed them all. The man's name is Lan Shaoxing, and he's apparently reached the absolute pinnacle of martial arts. The Yi family managed to defeat him back then and banned him from the country for 10 years. But that man has been holding a grudge ever since, and he's just waiting for the right moment to get his revenge. Qin Fan asks if they're looking for a powerful helper, but Jisoo corrects him. They want him to be their guardian deity. Jisoo bows deeply, promising that the Yi family will do whatever it takes to support Qin Fan as he reaches his full potential. Qin Fan is satisfied with how reasonable the Yi family has been. He tells Jisoo that they're quite a likable bunch. Jisoo shakes on it, saying he's looking forward to Qin Fan's guidance. In exchange, Qin Fan promises the same. Back in his room, Qin Fan gets to work. He knows that with the spiritual chi on Earth, becoming a transcendence master would make him unstoppable among mortals. He focuses his energy, forming a glowing seal between his fingers as he begins the refining process. He's actually looking forward to seeing how much progress he can make in this world. He summons a golden fire from his fingertips, using the intense heat to begin processing the medicinal herbs. He commands the energy to rise, surrounding the ingredients with a swirl of flame and spiritual power. The herbs he's using barely have any spiritual chi, but he figures he can make up for it with sheer quantity. After a few attempts, he manages to refine a handful of basic origin nurturing pills, but his current golden fire is still way too weak. He realized he's going to need a much better setup if he wants to refine anything more advanced. For now, these basic pills are enough to help him start tempering his physical body. He pops one like it's candy. He decides to use the Azure Firmament art, which is the most solid foundational method for his current level. He starts condensing all the spiritual chi he's absorbed, forcing it deep into his muscles and bones. His eyes glow with a cold, blue light as he successfully tempers his flesh, strengthening his body from the inside out. The next morning, Qin Fan arrives at the massive Yi family mansion. The staff is lined up to welcome him with absolute respect. Jisoo and the rest of the family are thrilled to see him. They practically fall over themselves to welcome their young miracle worker. Elder Yi Tsongjun is feeling incredible. He tells Qin Fan that after just one day of the medicine, his condition has already improved more than he ever thought possible. Qin Fan explains that the first pill was just to strengthen his body so he'd be ready for a much more thorough treatment today. He knows that while the pill was a prototype, it's still more than enough for an elderly mortal to handle. The rest of the family agrees to step outside so they don't disturb the treatment. Yi Haoxuan begs Qin Fan to take good care of his grandfather. Qin Fan tells Elder Yi to take a seat. As the others leave, he catches a glimpse of Yi Haoxuan walking away. He suddenly remembers the guy. In his past life, Haoxuan was one of the few who actually stood up for him. He places his glowing hand on the elder's arm, and a surge of spiritual energy begins to flow through the old man's body. A memory of the school sports field flashes through his mind. Hao Xuan was the only wealthy kid who ever lifted a finger to help him when bullies were closing in. Back then, a younger Qin Fan was on the ground, terrified, while Hao Xuan stood between him and his tormentors. A kid named He Haolin was mocking him, claiming Qin Fan had stepped on his new sneakers and had to pay the price. Haolin's lackeys told Hao Xuan not to bother helping, since Qin Fan was just an abandoned son of the Qin family. Haolin demanded that Qin Fan kneel down and kowtow until he was satisfied, or else he'd make his parents pay the debt instead. Hao Xuan told the bullies they were going too far and even offered to pay for the shoes himself. But the younger Qin Fan, feeling totally defeated and powerless, actually dropped to his knees on the wet pavement. Hao Xuan was furious at his lack of spine, shouting at him to stand up and have some backbone. But Qin Fan just told him to stop helping, asking if he could really protect him forever. The bullies just laughed at him, calling him a coward and mocking the Qin family for kicking him to the curb. Hao Xuan tried to warn him that if he caved now, the bullies would only make things twice as bad the next time he wasn't around. But back then, Qin Fan felt like he had absolutely nothing, no status, no strength, and no way to fight back. Hao Xuan just stared at him in frustration, unable to understand why he wouldn't even try to stand up for himself. He finally walked away, telling Qin Fan that someone who won't even try to save themselves isn't worth saving. Back in the present, Qin Fan continues the treatment. He remembers that back then, he was too terrified of dragging his parents down to trust a stranger's kindness. His eyes glow as he guides the energy. They never crossed paths again after that day, but he hasn't forgotten that one act of kindness. He finds it ironic that they've reunited in this life under such different circumstances. He continues to repair the elder's damaged meridians. He successfully reconnects the pathways in the old man's body, restoring a flow of energy that has been blocked for years. Qin Fan asks how he feels, and Elder Yi jumps up, cheering. He says he feels decades younger and calls it an absolute miracle. Qin Fan hands over a bottle with a few more pills, telling him to give them to the rest of the family to help strengthen their constitutions. The elder can't thank him enough. Qin Fan smiles, telling them not to make a big deal of it. He says it must just be fate that he and the Yi family crossed paths. Yi Ling tearfully hugs her grandfather, while Yi Haoshuan watches in pure disbelief that his grandfather was cured so quickly. Yi Jizu shakes Qin Fan's hand firmly, declaring that the Yi family will never forget this massive favor. Qin Fan shrugs it off as a minor matter, mentioning that he'll likely be asking for their help with a few things in the future anyway. Jizu tells him to just say the word. Qin Fan explains that he's looking for a place with rich spiritual energy, similar to the lakeside spot where they first met. He also gives Jizu a list of 5 incredibly rare medicinal items he needs, including thousand-year lingji and ice mountain snow lotus. Jizu immediately starts taking notes on his phone, promising to send out search teams right away. He asks if Qin Fan has any other immediate plans. Qin Fan knows these items will soon cause a major stir in the world. By having the Yi family act now, they can get ahead of everyone else. Qin Fan says he's heading back to school for now, since his parents have been on his case about his grades. Jizu laughs, noting that despite his incredible powers, he's still just a son to his parents. He promises that the Yi family will help keep his identity a secret. Jizu mentions that since they've replaced the school's corrupt leadership, they were thinking of throwing a huge celebration party in Qin Fan's honor. Qin Fan is caught off guard by the idea. Jizu insists he deserves it for cleaning up the school and saving everyone from the previous regime. Jizu adds that the teachers and students are all dying to know who the great hero was that fixed everything. Qin Fan politely declines the party but suggests they hold a school-wide event instead, something to help everyone relax. Jizu is intrigued. Jizu agrees, seeing the wisdom in the young master's suggestion. Cut to the school grounds, where a massive banner announces the opening of the 7th Middle School Spring Sports Meet. Students are buzzing with excitement. They find it strange that the school is suddenly pouring money into a sports meet when they used to only care about exams. The atmosphere is electric. Everyone is grateful to the new school leadership for finally giving them a chance to have some real fun. Down on the track, Qin Fan finishes his warm-ups. A few days of intense cultivation have finally completed his initial body tempering. To his surprise, he's even managed to form the foundation of the hell-suppressing physique, an incredibly powerful physical state. As he thinks about his next steps for increasing his cultivation, he hears a familiar voice calling his name. It's Yi Ling and Haoshuan. Haoshuan explains that his father had them transferred into Qin Fan's class. Yi Ling, blushing slightly, says she came with her grandfather to cheer them both on. Yi Ling can't help but notice that Qin Fan seems to have gotten even more handsome. She quickly looks away, her face turning red. Qin Fan gives them a small smile as the announcement for the first event blares over the speakers, calling all classes to assemble. As they walk toward the field, Qin Fan notices Haoxuan looks like he's bursting with questions. He asks if there's something on his mind. Haoxuan hesitantly asks if the rumors are true. Did Qin Fan really take down an entire security team by himself? Qin Fan just tells him to watch and see. The starter pistol fires, and the foot race begins. The crowd can't believe their eyes as Qin Fan tears across the track. He crosses the finish line at a speed that seems physically impossible, leaving everyone else in the dust. In the tennis event, he hits the ball with such force that it shatters the ground on the opponent's side. The other player just stares in shock. Next up is the long jump. Qin Fan takes off, soaring through the air far beyond the pit. The officials are stunned, realizing he's just shattered a world record without even breaking a sweat. Qin Fan stands by, looking completely bored. During the basketball event, Qin Fan dunks the ball with such raw power that the entire glass backboard explodes into fragments. Standing amidst the glass, Qin Fan realizes he might have overdone it a little and makes a mental note to hold back more in the future. The crowd goes wild. From the stands, Yi Ling and her grandfather cheer him on, both of them immensely proud of the young man's incredible display. High above the stands, a mysterious figure watches the event closely, their eyes fixed on Qin Fan from the shadows. A Yi family security lead reports into his headset, confirming the perimeter is clear. He tells all units to prepare for their next move. At the school swimming pool, the race is on, but one guy is leaving everyone in his wake. Qin Fan touches the wall first, looking like he just stepped out of a fitness magazine. The girls in the stands are losing it. They can't believe this shredded guy has been at their school this whole time. Yi Qing isn't amused by the fangirls, but Yi Jizu thinks the kid is definitely enjoying the spotlight. Patriarch Yi and the others watch from the side. The old man knows this small pond isn't going to hold Qin Fan for long. Yi Haoxuan finally reaches the edge, completely gassed. He looks up to see Qin Fan standing over him like it was nothing. Qin Fan just dries his hair, looking totally unbothered. Haoxuan stares at him, wondering how the hell this is the same guy he used to know. To Haoxuan, Qin Fan feels like a total stranger. Qin Fan just looks down at him with a cold gaze. He reaches out a hand to his rival, telling him he's basically back from hell. He pulls Haoxuan out of the water, but they aren't alone for long. The girls swarm them immediately, begging for his number and asking to be friends. The gossip mill starts up. Everyone's talking about how the abandoned son of the Qin family just became a self-made billionaire overnight. Even Haoxuan gets caught in the crossfire. The girls are treating them like a boy band. They start begging for a lunch date, getting way too close for comfort. It's too much. Both of them look like they've seen a ghost. They don't stick around to chat, they just book it. The girls are left in the dust, wondering why their eye candy just vanished. Watching from the balcony, Yi Qing is annoyed. The girls' thirst just scared off their guest. Jizu just laughs at the youthful drama, but Qin is genuinely bummed she didn't get to invite him to lunch. Jizu's smile fades. He's got no mercy for anyone trying to ruin this peaceful moment. The patriarch is just as cold. Whoever is looking for trouble isn't coming back. Right on cue, a group of mercenaries moves through the halls. They've spotted their target on the second floor. They kick in the door, thinking they've got an easy capture. Inside, Qin Fan is just putting his jacket on. He tells Haoxuan those girls were actually a bigger threat than these guys. The mercenaries think they're tough, but Qin Fan just finds it boring to beat up little kids. There's a quick, messy sound of a struggle from behind the closed doors. Then the door slowly swings open. Qin Fan and Haoxuan walk out over a pile of unconscious bodies. These professional killers were even easier to handle than the casino guards. Haoxuan hits up his uncle to start the cleanup. Qin Fan senses there are still a few more rats to catch. He wants to wrap this up fast, he's got an afternoon competition and he's not missing lunch. Over at the cafeteria, another mercenary has his eyes on a new target. Yi Qing is just trying to enjoy her meal alone while her family handles business. Her mind drifts back to the pool, wondering where Qin Fan disappeared to. She can't help but notice he's definitely bulked up since the last time they met. She tells herself she's just trying to build a good relationship with their benefactor, but her face says otherwise. She pulls out her phone to check in with Haoxuan. The mercenary sees his opening. He radios in that the Yi family's young lady is all alone. A voice on the other end tells him to go ahead, but a shadow is already looming over him. The mercenary freezes. He realizes too late that someone is standing right behind him. Meanwhile, in the school gymnasium, Zhan Long watches the Yi elders from the shadows. He thinks the old man is finally showing his age and losing his grip. Zhan Long enters the school gymnasium with his team, mocking the Yi family for having enough time to watch a student swimming race. Yi Jizu recognizes the blonde leader immediately. He's shocked to see someone from Lan Xiaosheng's circle showing up before their 10-year agreement is even up. Zhan Long isn't there to chat. He reminds Jizu how his master was once driven out of the country and declares it's finally time to collect on that old debt. Jizu doesn't hold back, calling them traitors who sold out their own country to act as lapdogs for a foreign nation. In his eyes, they don't even deserve to stand on this soil. Zhan Long just shrugs it off. To him, it's just a job for the highest bidder, and he's more than happy to switch sides if the price is right. Outside, the sound of a sniper rifle being chambered echoes through the school grounds. Suddenly, a series of red laser dots appear on Zhan Long and his men. The mercenary leader is stunned to see he's the one being targeted. Patriarchy steps forward with a cold glare. He reminds the stray dog that as long as the Yi family is around, Huaxia is well guarded. Zhan Long regains his composure and pulls out a radio, smugly announcing that everyone in the school is now a hostage. He leans in close, threatening that with just one order, anyone, including the Yi family heirs, could die at any second. Jizu just stares him down, completely unfazed. He tells the mercenary to go ahead and try it. Zhan Long presses the button on his radio, screaming for his men to start executing the crowd to warm them up, but all he gets back is dead silence. He stares at the device in confusion, wondering why none of his squads are responding. A calm voice suddenly comes through the speaker, noting that only one boss is left to deal with. At the entrance of the gym, Qin Fan casually walks in, holding one of the mercenaries' communicators. One of Zhan Long's men panics, realizing they've lost contact with every single squad in the school. Zhan Long is in total disbelief. He can't understand how the Yi family's security could have neutralized his entire team so quickly. Yi Jizu scoffs. He reveals that they've been tracking the mercenaries since they entered the country and only left the security light to bait them in. He adds that they didn't even need a large force for this trap. Qin Fan tosses the captured devices to the ground, explaining that a group of martial artists trying to hide among ordinary people is like a sore thumb. They were too easy to find. He looks bored as he tells them they were incredibly easy to locate. Behind him, Haoshuan finally catches up, gasping for air after running across the entire campus. Haoshuan can't believe Qin Fan isn't even winded after clearing the school. Zhan Long stares at the kid, still trying to process how a teenager did all this. Zhan Long's shock turns into rage. He refuses to believe he was defeated by a wet-behind-the-ears brat. Qin Fan's body begins to glow with a terrifying blue aura. He's finished his warm-up and is ready to get serious. He cracks his knuckles and looks Zhan Long dead in the eye, challenging the mercenary to actually show him a good time.